and good afternoon. This is Hubert Grimes here one more time for what we refer to as the Judge Hubert Radio Hour. We are just grateful that you've taken time out of your busy schedules to tune in and to listen to us sharing some words. As you know, I always like to admonish everyone that, in the words of one of my dear friends and mentors who's gone on to his heavenly reward, and you hear me say it all the time. Never go to bed as ignorant as you were when you got up this morning. Every day, you ought to learn something new. And that's our task. That's our assignment here. Why do we do so? Because education is a key to being and staying free. So, welcome. Welcome again to the show, and we're glad that you're with us. We're here right smack dab in the middle of January, and it certainly is moving rapidly. I was just talking with a couple of friends earlier this morning, and we were talking about the fact that here we are. I was scheduling a follow-up appointment with the doc, and it looks like we're scheduling it for January 30th. So wait a minute, didn't we just start off with January 1st? So here we are. The year is moving rapidly, and who knows? We'll be at Easter shortly. Then of course Memorial Day, and next thing you know, we'll be back in football season again. So just glad to be here. It's a blessing to do so. For some of you, this of course is my. I was not with you last week due to I had a court appearance last week. So I'm glad that I can launch this time and this year with an opportunity to be able to share a few words with you. I got a very interesting topic today that's going to come up, and got a young man that I have much respect for. Many of you see me probably dressed with my my cap and my warm up because for me it's a little chilly, but that's the beauty of this radio show that I can kind of choose whether one day I'm going to come in with full on court attire, or some days I come in with coming right out of the gym. So today is one of those days where I'm dressed down, but you might be dressed down on one hand, but the information is just as relevant no matter what. So it's exciting time. We actually here in the Daytona Beach area have already begun the weekend celebrating Dr. King. And even before that, this past weekend was a very busy weekend for us. We, of course, celebrated the Wilson Foundation annual gala designed to raise funds for scholarship recipients. So shout out to my good buddy, Rufus Wilson, who, of course, is a BCU alum and has started this foundation in honor of his mom and his deceased wife. And they've been working diligently now over the last, oh gosh, I think we're probably getting close to 10 years now. And the gala was a sellout. That was a phenomenal thing where we recognized several individuals from the local community who are doing great work. And of course, shout out to my one of my goddaughters in particular, Superintendent LaShaka Moore, out of who was a school superintendent from Flagler County. She was one of the honorees. And also in memoriam, we honored Senator Geraldine Thompson, who passed last year, and she, of course, had phenomenal work that she did. Her husband and I are members of Sigma Pi Phi fraternity. We are judges. We were judicial colleagues for a number of years. And of course, Senator Thompson did such work here in the state of Florida, including helping to get the exoneration of the Groveland Four, helping to establish a Black History Museum in Orlando, the Wells-built, what used to be the Wells-built Hotel, what became the Wells-built Museum, and it was her work that helped to establish that so that the history of Black Americans, particularly in the Central Florida, Orlando area, would not be lost. And recently, there was the street in front of the Wells-built Hotel, Wells-built Museum, was actually named in honor of her. And of course, she, in our opinion, she died much too soon, but we are grateful for the work. It was a lasting legacy for her. And we were happy to be there with the presentation that was accepted by State Attorney Monique Worrell, who was one of her mentees. And so we're just so grateful for the work that she continues to do there in the Orlando Ninth Circuit area. and challenging no less, but she's getting it done. So those were just a few of the many. Reverend Derek Triplett, who also is on this radio station, was is one of the honorees as well as and of course Paula Commissioner, pardon me, Commissioner Paula Reed of Daytona Beach. Again, honored people who are doing work here in the Daytona Beach area. But then they set the standard for the young people who were the beneficiaries of the scholarship assistance that the Wilson Foundation provides, both at Bethune-Cookman University and also at the University of Florida in the School of Education. So we're just shout out to Rufus and all of the persons uh, who are part of the Wilson Foundation and all the great work that you're doing. Keep up the good work. And of course, that was on Saturday. Sunday afternoon, we had uh, the kickoff for the Martin Luther King festivities with the dinner that was honoring a number of people. And Kim Brown Crawford, of course, chairs that organization, and she did a phenomenal job. As she said, it was a sellout. Um, Commissioner Paula Reed was back again the second day as the mistress of ceremonies for that event. And so we are just grateful that all of these things are happening. And shout out to all these young people who received their scholarship assistance through the organization. I believe they awarded almost $40,000 in scholarships during this time period for young people who are graduating, headed off to college here in the next several months. So congrats, Kim, for great work and all of the people who helped to support the MLK program. I said that to say that that sort of sets the stage. That's the kickoff. That's the first quarter for the series of events that are going to be happening throughout the area this upcoming weekend. This, of course, is the next Monday is the national celebration of the Martin Luther King Day. And of course, we do that in honor of the fallen warrior who has made a difference in the lives of all of us. So whether you're talking about looking back at the time when he, just came forth, I remember they talked about his first book and how he was a woman that was demented, stabbed him, and he almost died, but God had a plan for his life, and we thank God for that. Of course, we know that he was very instrumental in the March on Washington when he was told by Mahalia Jackson, Martin, tell him about the dream. And that's where the whole story about Martin's, what we've now referred to as the I Have a Dream speech. And of course, we know that he, along with his colleagues and supporters, Reverend Ralph Abernathy, Hosea Williams, and Julian Bond, Stokely Carmichael, Jesse Jackson, and a host of other names that will largely, history may not recall their names, but they were instrumental in helping to bring about the changes that have made a difference in America. The sad part about it is that there are people today that have the audacity to want to say that the civil rights movement was wrong. That they want to say that white folks did not benefit from the civil rights movement. In fact, that they lost their privileges. Anybody that says that is either ignorant or they're racist outright. And yeah, I said it because the reality of the fact is that America is better today because of the work, because of the life story of Dr. King and so many other people. I mean, I can remember very vividly. I was a kid. I was 15 years old when we were at a track meet down in Lakeland when they posted a sign saying that ML King had been shot. And I remember asking the lady, well, is he dead? And the lady said, no, not yet, darn it. Those words were seared into my mind and my memory banks because it's sad to say, but that even at that time, there were people that could not understand that, we are all Americans. We are all supposed to be treated fairly. I mean, isn't that what our Constitution said? But today there are people who want to change that. They want to turn it back the hands of time to a place and space when black Americans, brown Americans, or even women were treated like second or even third class citizens. And so it's important for us to make sure that we don't forget where we come from, that we don't forget our history, and that we tell that history to the next generation of young people so that they may take a stand and may know that it's important that they always do their best so that they can indeed carry forth the journey, carry forth the movement that not just Dr. King, but those ancestors that came before him. Everyone made efforts and everyone contributed in some way. They may not have gotten the publicity and the recognition, but I think about my own mother down in Bartow and the work that she did in the community, the work she did in the church. I think about it, and many of you out there in the listening audience can begin to think about people you know. They may not have been high profile names, but everybody has a responsibility to contribute to the betterment of humanity. And the betterment of humanity, in my opinion, means that we as black folks should be treated fairly. We're not asking for anything excessive. I mean, these people have come to the point of saying that efforts of civil rights, efforts of affirmative action, efforts of diversity, equity, and inclusion, that those things are wrong because they take things away from white Americans. The devil is a lie. Nothing has been taken away from white Americans in this country, but instead that there's this small group who seem to think that they have an entitlement, because they quote unquote call themselves Americans. They want to say that everybody else is not. But I say to you out there in the audience, make sure that you don't forget where you come from. Make sure you understand that all of us have benefited from the work that's gone on in this country. Many sacrifices haven't been made, even down to the fact that people like Viola Louiso, a white female out of Detroit, was the first white woman that was killed as part of the freedom fight and freedom riders back in 1963. And there are a host of others who have all contributed because they want to do what's right. And I call upon the politicians of today, quit this foolishness that you guys are engaging in. You want to act like you guys don't know the truth. You want to act like you are inhumane and you're following leadership that's going to take you down a path of darkness that is not good for yourself nor for anybody else. So stand up for what is right. Treat people with respect and dignity, and let them know that if we truly are Americans, then is it not true what they say, that we all are seeking to have a space and place in this country whereby we can all enjoy life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Well, I'm happy today to bring forth a very awesome young brother who I have a lot of respect for. Our conversations go back to the time, believe it or not, when he was actually in college, and more specifically, after college, when he worked for Delta Airlines here in the Daytona Beach area. And I remember a conversation having it with him there at the airport one day, and he was talking about law school. He said, my real goal, my real life purpose and desire is to go to law school. I say, well, so what? Why don't you do it? Nothing between you. As my mother used to say, nothing beats a failure but a try. And I will say to you that Mr. Kelvin Daniels, Attorney Kelvin Daniels, decided to leave his job at Delta Airlines and to pursue his dream of going to law school. He, of course, not only did he pursue it, he successfully completed it. He actually interned with me during one of the summers prior to his graduation. And of course, we continued to converse, and I continue to do my best to try to mentor and encourage him. And of course, he graduated. He studied for the bar exam at his law school at his location and passed the bar exam the first time out, and was studying out of state. So let it not be said what can't be done, but he was able to do it. And now he has returned back to the area. He is working in private practice here, and we're going to talk about some of the areas that he's dealing with because the timing is perfect. Many of you saw the incident you've seen it repeatedly, the incident that happened out in Minnesota last week when one of the ICE Immigration Customs Enforcement officers actually shot and killed a woman who was in her car, and she appeared to be trying to get away. But in the eyesight and mindset of this particular individual, he said that she was trying to run over him, and he shot this woman through her window, the windshield, the lower left portion of the windshield of her car, and also in through the driver's side window, and he killed this lady. And of course, it has led to a lot of widespread protests there in Minnesota and other places around the country because they say ICE has gone overboard. ICE with this immigration efforts and the words of the president of the United States, they're going to purge this country of all these quote unquote what he called criminals. But unfortunately, many people that are non-criminals are finding themselves at the behest of this immigration customs enforcement officers who are unfortunately seen to be on a moment of trying to do everything that they can. And currently, there's news as of today that the Attorney General, Keith Ellison, who successfully prosecuted the George Floyd case, is indicating that they're looking into evaluating this case to determine if, in fact, there was a crime committed. Even though this guy is a federal officer, there may have been violations of state law. And if so, then Keith Ellison, and that's the same thing that Keith Ellison did with Derek Chauvin and the other police officers who participated, some that stood by and watched it while Chauvin actually caused the death of George Floyd. And so I believe it's in good hands with the state attorney general there in Minnesota to look at this matter, to evaluate it, to investigate it, and to determine whether or not charges should be brought. But we're going to talk about a wide range of things dealing with immigration. My good friend, Mr. Kelvin Daniels, again, is with us, and going to bring him on. We're going to talk about some of the other stuff he's doing, and then we're going to finish the rest of our show out talking about immigration. So, Mr. Daniels, join us right here. We're glad to have you.
Thank you, Judge. Happy to be here.
It's a great,
again.
and you're looking sharp as always there, young man. Come over a little bit this way. We're going to make sure we got you. There you go. Got you on screen. All right. Well, let's tell some of the people, first of all, about Kelvin Daniels before we dive into the issues of the day. Let's talk about you and what you're doing now. But what led you? I mean, I gave a little snippet of it, but you did it. Why not we can encourage others to do the same?
I hope that we have. Speaking about my past, and I thank you for welcoming me back, Judge. Is that good? Okay. But Judge, may I, before I go any further, I would like for your audience to look up Graham v. Connor, which is a case that deals with police shootings, because you referenced that.
Okay.
And as when I taught at Bethune, that is one of the cases that needs to be looked at whenever there's a shooting.
Is that a federal case, or is that a federal case out of what what state?
It's happened in Tennessee. It went to the Supreme Court, but it's the objective standard for when a police officer shoots someone in a vehicle or whatever, when they're saying that they have that objective reasonableness. And for all of those who are interested in that, just look that case up. You will find it all over the internet, and it will let you know what happens with all the police shooters, and that is the standard that they need to adhere to. This case has not been overturned yet, and therefore a lot of claims that everyone makes about wrongful shootings, you may get justice civilly, but never criminally. And so that tends to be the caveat. People give money to those victims, but not justice in the courtroom for criminal charges. Okay. Now, back to that, Judge, and I appreciate you letting me be here again. Yes, I clerked for you, and yes, I did attend Bethune-Cookman. I played football, as I said, and I got off track. And my desire is, I want to get bigger.
Who was your coach was who?
We had Coach Little and Coach Collins. Remember my man, Coach Collins, who's deceased now, rest in peace. I love Coach Collins. He took care of me.
Okay. And then you had a little bit then with Coach Sy.
No, I graduated.
You graduated before?
Yep.
Okay.
Because when I think they had interim, Coach Griff during that time.
Right.
And so, I don't know, I got detracted and started living, tried to make the pros initially, as I said before, and kind of just started working, but I majored in political science for a reason. So, and I never told you this, but I'll tell you today, the one dumb thing I said now, I guess we learned from my mistakes, was that I wanted to go to Georgia like you did. Okay. And Georgia at that time was probably a top 5 law school, or maybe a top 10. And when I studied for that test and I took it, and I didn't apply to Florida and Georgia when I first graduated.
Okay.
And didn't get it into neither one of those. And I had a score high enough, actually. I looked back at it, I should have applied to a lot of schools.
Okay.
And so then started living. And so, coming back to it, as I wrote in my paper, a dream deferred, but I knew I wanted to be there, and that's why I majored in political science, and so on and so forth. So
I'm going to interrupt you because I actually had a similar experience. When I first got out of undergrad, I actually applied, got all the paperwork, got all the application, everything together to apply to Howard, but never followed through. I applied Howard and Antioch, never really did everything I needed to do. Just kind of fixed the first application. I think it's poetic that now my son, Jamal, is actually at Howard Law School, and he should be graduating come next spring, or this spring actually.
yeah, he's
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, we've been encouraging him. So I tell you, he might have took my trip a little bit. He lived a little bit, but now he's finally there. So
yeah.
very happy that he'll be coming down, hopefully coming down.
But it just shows you what you said about a dream deferred. If you just, and for those of you out there that might have said, man, I was thinking about law school when I first got out, but I didn't want to do it, and life got in the way, and you can still do it. That's the story. For me, it was 2 years deferred between undergrad and the time I lived in Atlanta, enjoyed the party life, but then finally decided, okay, it's time. I had a mentor that threw the gauntlet down, and she challenged me, and that's the challenge that I needed to hear. And so you're saying the same thing. Life challenged you.
Yes, and thank goodness I initially didn't get a promotion that I thought I deserved. And when I was so upset, I said, you know what, man, it's not for me. I'm going back to school. Okay. And so the guy is a white guy. He likes to say that I made him a lawyer. he wants to take credit.
All right.
Because he didn't promote me. And then I still got it later, and I made the determination. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and go back to school. And so I gave up making, Delta was paying well. And so, I just said, I'm just going to step out on faith and just,
all right.
I think I'm a good student too. And,
you did it. You did it. You did it. And so now you've been back here in Daytona now. How long have you been practicing?
What's this, 11, 12, since when you swore me in, 14?
Oh my
15,
God, yes.
15,
so I was about to say,
it's
over 10. I knew it was over 10.
Yeah.
Wow. And so now you actually have gotten baptized in this thing called the law, the practice of law. We all know that, law is an ever learning process, but talk about some of the things you're doing in your practice right now.
So I was, the baptism comes from getting on that list, and that ended up giving me a murder case, which I had to go to trial on, which is an experience, for any attorney, whoever has to do that, a high stakes, so to speak, when you do any type of case like that. And so, you get all different types of cases. And so I've been trying to kind of minimize criminal somewhat and stepping into immigration.
Okay.
Which actually started out pretty good the first time this gentleman made it in the presidency. And it was okay with President Biden, but the second time this president has come in, he's eliminated due process. I want to say that's a word that we'll probably say. Due process has been kind of limited, with this. And so immigration has been a struggle for a lot of people.
Talk about that. What do you mean when you say that he's eliminated due process?
I mean, just executive orders saying that you cannot have a bond. Bond is actually in the statute. You're entitled to a bond.
Right.
And they brought it back, kind of, sort of. Some of the judges have allowed bonds, and if you don't do what he says, it was like recently 8 judges got knocked off in New York. Just those who were still granted asylums and different stuff. And they every time.
These were immigration judges, though, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Took them out. So the due process, prosecutorial discretion. It took away the prosecutorial discretion when the prosecutor can say, we're not going to file on this one. We'll drop this case against that immigrant. It took that away from them. So a lot of the due processes that normally you have are being taken away in order to streamline, I guess.
Was it purging, getting people out of the country?
Certain people, yeah.
Here again, what our listeners need to know is that due process is something that's built into the U.S. Constitution. And yet you got someone now who comes in and by what we call fiat, by the stroke of a pen, and issues an executive order that literally has canceled out many of the rights that we have grown accustomed to over the past almost 300 years.
Yes, and I challenge all of us, all lovers of peace, and I don't know, they're trying to attack civil rights laws, and this particular court has indicated that they will be reviewing some of the cases, and the fear is they're going to go back to the civil rights cases, and this case with a 6-3 majority that they have, they'll overturn some of these laws that have given us these rights that we have. So right now is one of the scariest times for anybody who looks at the law and looks at what's going on into this society. That this court is very, very scary, in my estimation, and what they may overturn. So.
I recently heard, I guess it was an interview or maybe I can't remember, a news article where Justice Amy Coney Barrett said that she thinks that maybe the court allowed the president to go too far. Now, they are the ones that ruled on made these decisions, particularly the one that said that a president is immune from criminal prosecution, for official acts that he takes. And that was the door that not just did they crack the door, but that door opened wide. And now this man is doing all manner of things under the guise of official action.
Judge, I mean that they allowed this, and now it's coming back to kind of bite this court. And I think that they're going to arrest some control back because it's getting, I believe, it's going, it's Pandora's box. Let's put it that way. And I think it's gotten out of hand with some of the executive orders that they're taking away, and some of the violations that you can just write and just take people's liberties away by a stroke of a pen. And if I don't like what you say, I'm going to send the DOJ after you, Department of Justice after you. And so that has become like
even down to the gentleman that Jerome Powell, who's head of the Fed.
Yes.
That is crazy and they're using some botched up reasoning because they say, oh well, he lied to Congress on the issue of the rebuilding of the buildings there. And it's crazy. So wait a minute, this president we got lies every day, and I'll say that. You don't have to say it. I'll say it. He lies every day. I mean, it was documented the first term that he had like over 30,000 lies that he told. And I don't even know what the number is now, but he just says whatever he wants to say when he wants to say it. And yet they are not saying anything about him. But now even the man that he appointed to the position as chairman of the Federal Reserve is now they're talking about they're investigating him for lying to Congress about the improvements to the building there in D.C.
The cost was too much, and just creating something.
But isn't this the same man that just tore down the east wing of the White House? The cost is too much, and the Fed was not using. As I understand, they were not using government funds either.
It's going to be beautiful, though. It's going to be beautiful.
That's what he says. It's going to be beautiful. It's supposed to be bigger than the rest of the White House. It currently exists too, because the White House is 45,000 square feet. This ballroom is supposed to be 90,000. That's twice the size.
Really?
Which means that how is that going to, from an architectural point of view, how is that going to span? I could see if it had been an addition, maybe towards the back, but he tore down the east side during the time that Congress was not in session. He just brought the bulldozers and all the caterpillars out, and they just tore it down. And I know that, having gone through house renovations and ourselves, I know how, your house is wide open, the birds flying in and out, the animals and critters coming whenever they get ready. So is that happening at the White House? All because
Trump Towers? That's going to be a new Trump Tower.
I guess it is. I guess so. Like
Trump House,
Trump Kennedy Center, and Trump. Everything is Trump. I guess the next thing you do is change the name of the country to Trump. Yeah. Well, let's dive in a little bit and talk, because we got people out there that want to know about the immigration process. You can't help but, and I know when our home was redone back in, we got hit by lightning back in 21, and I remember the company, they hired a bunch of guys that were from, you knew they weren't born in America because Spanish was their first language, but these were some hardworking individuals, And I just stood out there some days just in awe because it might be five, six, seven of them working on the roof, and nobody takes an extended lunch break. They took turns, you know, so that they could get the job done. And so even now, when I drive by different places, I drove by one this morning. They were doing a roof, and there was several guys that were there that probably were also, because one thing I noticed is that as a kid growing up in Polk County, I was I picked oranges as a teenager, sure did. But you know what? And there were a lot of black people out there picking oranges, black and white, picking oranges. Today, you don't see black folks out there in the orange groves picking oranges. You see primarily people from, outside of the country. They're immigrants. Some of them have gotten their green cards for specifically to work or some other measure of work, and they're on these special visas to come and work. But then these are the people that are getting the hard jobs done. They're picking the crops. They're picking as I said, whether it be the strawberries. We're in strawberry season in Florida now. You got the ferns coming up next month because you got Valentine's Day, and you got all those kind of hard jobs. And now you just run. A lot of people have gone underground. A lot of people have left the country voluntarily, and so you got a lot of farmers who stand to lose crops as a result of these policies that are being implemented by the Trump administration.
I mean, the laws have been there for immigration. Enforcement is what we're doing, but the way they're enforcing it, it seems a little aggressive to me and a lot of other people. I'm actually a proponent for coming here and staying and being here the right way.
The right way.
Yes. So some of the people who do have work authorization, that's great. My thing, though, Judge, has always been, I look back when I was a child, my uncle Larry used to have my brother and I lay in grass, and I just mentioned this the other night. Mm-hmm. My brother wrote a book, and he actually mentioned this. He said, I'm gonna make y'all stay in school. Y'all ain't gonna want to do this kind of work.
I heard that myself.
I used to lay grass, and I told him, yeah, this is working because it's between your nails, and we're doing trees and all types of stuff. And so that type of labor made me know that I kind of wanted to do something different. So,
I agree with you.
So that was, and I thank him all the time for making sure we knew. Mm-hmm. However, when you look at immigration, you have family-based immigration. You can marry a citizen. You have work authorization. You have the visas that he put the $100,000 on. So you have different ways of working in the United States. A lot of the people that we see out there though are working almost like indentured servants. So in one way, they do hard work. In other ways, they're lining the pockets of these other people who are not paying them a fair wage because they're here illegally. So, it's like on the other hand with law, one side is like they're doing hard work. On the other hand, they're lining somebody's pockets who's not paying a fair wage. Okay. And so the question is always presented, if you were to eliminate that population, a pool of people, so are shrinking, with that person who's a multimillionaire now because they're paying less, have to pay more. And it may be only be worth a few $100,000 because people will do the work if you pay them, right? But not for what they had our grandparents and my grandfather them picking pecans and stuff like that and giving $5 for a big, so
right.
That's the issue that a lot of people have when they talk about immigration and the people they're coming to get, the overstays. Come here for 6 months on a B1, B2 visa. Okay. And the people don't go back. And so then they're here illegally. Or you come here like the ones in the store. I've learned so many different ways of how people have come into the United States. One of the people told me that the people from India, they come here and they use, I don't want to say it's a K visa, like they come here for a special duty, like they're bringing a loot group here, something that nobody plays. And then it might be 8 loot players, but they get 40 of them to come. And so 30 of them don't go back, and then they wind up working in these stores and different things like that. So I'm learning that people are here illegally and they're working a lot of hours.
Okay.
And so it goes back to the lady who was a whistleblower at the Kia plant. You know, and they said that those people were what were they, engineers? When it turned out to be, they were just laborers from Korea.
Now, is that the one that was they were trying to build in Georgia?
Yeah, the place
Okay.
in Georgia. So you learn and you listen to them. When you read the facts, though, it's those people working like 12 and 15 hours a day, you know, and then so is that's hard work, but
Yes.
is that fair to them too? You know, they come over here, and so they're being, and then everybody in that group stays in the same place. What American group of workers, you know, all live and get in the same bus and live in the same community and never get a call in sick? So immigration is an issue that we have, but you know, it's almost like indentured servants we're making. I don't want to say slavery because slavery was forced in with a whip, so we'll use indentured servants, so to speak. And so
Now, let me ask you this, because one of the things that the president stated was that he was going to get rid of all the criminals, as he called it. Uh, Distinguish for us, like you said, those who are just here to earn a living on the one hand versus those who are engaged in some type of criminal activity.
you know, I remember my evidence professor said the evidence was a big net with a bunch of different nets underneath it, and they catch it. Well, you know, it lets some things through, and then the nets get smaller and smaller when you're trying to catch, you know.
Okay.
Well, when you go and round up 20 people and you're looking for 5 criminals, and all 20 of them are here illegally, they're not releasing the other 15. That's
No.
been the problem.
Right.
You know, it's like you're a lawyer too, as a judge. An arrest warrant means you coming in to arrest that person. The search warrant means you coming to search that house. Well, if you go in there to arrest a person on the arrest warrant and there's drugs on the table, you're not leaving the drugs because you coming to arrest that person. You're going back to get a warrant and then coming back to get the rest of the people in there. So when they're using this guise to me to say I'm going to get criminals, and they just grabbing everybody in that net,
Right.
and they not releasing them, which is what it was in terms supposed to do. You know, to let some people go, we're not here for you, but they're not doing that. So this is just a way to grab everybody and say, hey, they was in the house with them, you know.
Wow.
And so that's what they're using that ploy, and that's.
But what about the efforts that it seems like we hear the news where ICE officers are hanging out? I think that Justice Kavanaugh authored an opinion that said that it allowed for ICE officers in Los Angeles to they could hang out at Home Depot and other places, construction type supply depots like that, Lowe's. They could go to those places, and if the individuals did not speak English, simply by the officer saying, "Hi, how are you?" and they said, you know, maybe say English is not my first language, that they could ask for their identification, and because they're in a certain place at a certain time, in profiling them as they don't speak English, and they look like, I mean, they're in a low income area which looks like they should be that they're there for a purpose of, as he said, he called it work, but what he did was open the door, Pandora's box again, that allowed for a lot of people to be taken into custody because, unquote unquote, his perception that these individuals were probably low grade, low income individuals, and they were probably, as you described earlier, working for somebody.
Unfettered discretion is one thing they hate to give. Remember, this was in the statute. Don't give police officers unfettered discretion.
Right.
However, they're giving ICE agents the ability to violate everything that these laws that we've created to stop people from getting profiled. They're allowing this to happen. Yeah, well, you look like somebody I should question based on your walk, your look, or your talk. And you know, and that's like if I was running down the street in a neighborhood that was considered impoverished. Am I running from a crime or am I jogging?
Right.
The way he's doing it, he's allowing them to violate the Illinois law, that Illinois case where the man was just running and then they stopped him saying he was running, you know, and so that just gave him probable cause because he was running from a neighborhood that was a lot of blacks and so on and so forth. And that happens here. I saw it happen here with the state troopers in the land. They, you know, because a lot of those this particular work group goes to like what's that racetrack. You know, I noticed they go to
Right.
racetracks, places like that, get food, ice, and things like that. And the troopers was hanging out at the racetrack one day. I was on my way to court in DeLand, and
Okay.
they was stopping the trucks. And you remember when Governor DeSantis gave them the discretion to do that here? You know,
Yeah. Right.
and so they was doing the same thing that they're saying now that the Supreme Court has penned that you can do, and that's again violating almost all of the laws that we had before. And Diedrich and I were speaking about that, and I said, it's like they're treating the people who they believe not to be citizens of the United States less than human. They're treating criminals better than they're treating these people. They're running them down, they're beating them. It's a lot you see on TV that is not normally what you would do to a human being. They're treating them less than human
I agree.
just because they from another country. That's not right. So that bothers me when I see those videos on TV.
And it's not only that, but a country they're from another country, but yet they're contributing citizens. Some of them are paying taxes.
Yeah.
Some of them are contributing to the economy through whatever the amount of income they make. They're taking care of their families. They go to stores. They're spending money. They're paying sales taxes. They're paying whatever rent, or they're buying their own home, and they're contributing to the local economy through purchasing clothes, purchasing food, doing all the stuff that quote unquote we as Americans we end up doing. But these are the kind of things that, in my opinion, it's going to come back to bite us. It's going to come back to bite us as a country.
And what can they not get? All of the things you just named, what do they not get? If they retire here, guess what they would not get because they're, quote, considered not citizens? They won't get Medicaid and Medicare and that
Right.
check. But they
Right.
contributed to it
Right.
substantially. Nobody ever has that money up that they put into that pool that they cannot even receive, at their status. They won't get any of that money that we get upon our 65 or 67 or whatever.
Right.
The age may change or go away. So yes, they do contribute substantially to all of these pools and pots without a benefit of receiving them because there's no income tax check for them, and certain people not going to get one. So, it's going to be a big drop in, and eventually we're going to have to figure out where these workers are going to come from. I guess it'll be us,
Well, I think that Elon Musk seemed to tell President that he would replace the workforce with robots. That's to let that one swallow. That was hard to swallow.
Yeah.
I mean, we see stories on television going back to cartoon days, even to the Jetsons, where we had Rosie the robot, and she was the maid, I think it was, in the cartoon, and we always thought, that's not going to happen. But now they are actually building out these robots because they think they're going to kick out everybody out of the country that they don't want, and then they're going to let the robots become the workforce, which is crazy.
I have a question for you since you broached this subject. What's going to happen to that class of customer service, so to speak? Because it's almost going to be an eliminated word in a little bit. I told my son he wanted something to eat at was it Wendy's or McDonald's? We have to order through that automated system. You have to order. So they're eliminating positions at the front, right? So what's going to happen to those people who were customer service agents? The front desk person no longer be there, So I'm just curious, what do you think is going to happen to that? What are we going to do with that workforce, as you say, that's being eliminated daily with robots, with this technology?
I think that most of us, particularly my generation, felt that if that was going to happen, that was way down the road in the future. That was another 10, 15, 20 years down the road. But we're seeing now they're testing. I saw something, I don't know, was it 60 Minutes or one of the other news shows. They were showing some work being done in, I believe it's either in Ohio or Michigan. And they were actually showing these quote unquote robots that they have now are slowly training to become workers on the assembly line. already. And then, like you said earlier about the whole thing, like with Tesla, the key thing for the Tesla is that you got to replace the whole battery, which is the undercarriage of the car. And I saw an example of that, whereby they bring the car in, they put it on some type of device, and then they lift it up with the undercarriage showing, and then they take the unbolt it, and then they take the battery out. It's a big, huge battery, probably the size of this desk, and then they take that and shove it to the side. They bring another fresh battery out, put it back in, bolt it down, all with these particular gears, or robots, and then it comes back, and then it's good to go. That is what some people believe, that we're going to get to the point where, we're going to have to look at that as an option for our workforce, and that just blows my mind.
It does, but I mean, I'm just afraid that customer service rep job is being eliminated. So that means we have what are these people who didn't actually, wind up in school, some of them or whatever, do these jobs, secretaries and so on and so forth. Where are we going to have them in this society that we're creating?
Well, that's even more reason why folks got to get out and vote.
Amen.
Because this system is up for review. I'm gonna call it that. It's up for review in 26. It depends on if people are going to seriously take these challenges that we're throwing out there and that many others are throwing out there. I want to just say to the people listening, there are many of you that have said to me, and I've heard it said before, that, I don't watch the news. I don't read the newspaper. Like, that's a badge of honor. How else are you going to know what's going on around you? And if you say, well, I get tired of hearing about what Trump is doing from day to day, how else are you going to keep up with? And not only it's an obligation that you have to be conscious of what's going on around you, as well as for the benefit of your generations that's coming behind you. Because those kids they're caught up in their cell phones, they're caught up in their games and all the stuff going on. But those things are just but distractions to keep us away from the realities. Literally in less than a year, we've seen a repeal of thousands of laws through these executive orders that this president has put in place and has been supported by a Supreme Court, which, if I did as a judge what some of them have done sitting as the highest court in the land, not only would I have gotten chased off the bench, I would probably have been prosecuted. You can't say that, but I can say it.
They'll lock you up, Judge.
When it comes down to finances like they've done, receipt of gifts that you don't document, that you don't report. I'm talking about, and I ain't talking about a fruitcake. I'm talking about, trips on yachts, trips on boats, trips on private planes, those kinds of things. All kinds of, if I had the drinking problem that some have reported to have, who sit on that court, I would be chased. I'd have been chased out of the system. It's amazing to me that these are the kind of things that are going on in our country. And then, like I said earlier, people don't want to talk about it.
I agree with this. This election is going to be pivotal, and we'll see if the people who actually saying they're upset with what's going on really mean it. Because a lot of times we hear people verbally say, "Oh, I didn't vote for this guy. I wouldn't do that." But then when the elections come around, you see the difference because we don't know who you voted for.
Right.
So this election will be pivotal.
Mm-hmm.
But just wanted to go back to something we were talking about with immigration and enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
This going into different people or different governor states, whether they Republican or Democratic, with the ICE official, and then bringing in the National Guard to back them up, right? I saw what the Minnesota governor was actually floated around having this National Guard put ICE out of his state. Did you see that?
I didn't see that particular one, but I know that Governor Walz is very upset. What has happened is that they have targeted the state of Minnesota now. Minnesota is a blue state, and it appears that the president is targeting any blue state as his enemy. And one of the things that they talked about was bringing in all these people. They claimed that the Somalian people were a part of this big fraud scheme, but they failed to mention that there was the leader of this quote unquote fraud scheme. They say took millions of dollars, daycare funds, child care, child food, all of that. But the one that's orchestrated all of it was a white female, and she went to trial. Apparently, may have been last summer, and was found guilty by a jury, and now she's awaiting sentencing. But they don't talk about her. But they want to blame the brown people, the Somalians, and say that they were the ones orchestrating this fraud.
I saw they were pleading guilty, but I didn't see that lady, the head of it was her. Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
I guess my issue with the sending the guard in and where he's sending them, who he's sending them for. Brighton Beach, my understanding, has a lot of people who have traded women, traded weapons, and they're from the Ukraine, Russian area, in this area up there, Long Beach. We have not broached these people yet, and it's always the same particular demographic: Central, South America, and Africa. And so I'm just wondering, when are we going into New York? So if anybody's listening who has that, why don't they tell them to go to New York and let's go to Brighton Beach and let's take care of some of these Russians here that do all of these illegal things in this country?
And it's well known. I mean, they make Hollywood movies out of those
Lord
things.
of War. The guy was right in New York. The movie was about a man running weapons, and he was right doing it from the United States. So it's a true story. So I'm just wondering, when are we going to go and take this justice everywhere?
Well, here's one of the other things I want to ask you. I know our time is rapidly running out, but we started talking about immigration. I noticed that there are a number of Black Americans, not a groundswell, but there's some. I saw where Jonathan Majors and Megan Good just got their citizenship established in Guinea, Africa. And it's part of, and I'm assuming, and I may be wrong, but I'm assuming that they're doing dual citizenship. And I know that is happening in Ghana. Stevie Wonder got his dual citizenship established in Ghana. In fact, that was just before our trip to Ghana, which was in 24. And there are others. I mean, we can go all the way back to when W.B. Du Bois got his dual citizenship established back in 1961. But there seems to be more and more discussion about people saying, I want to get my extra citizenship. Now I understand that the president has stated, and I don't know if he's going to put that in an executive order too, that you can only be citizen of one country. You're either going to be Americans or you're going to be whatever else you want to be. But that, again, is a threat that he's using to try to help coerce people either to stay or, as he said, to go.
Right.
Any thoughts on that?
I don't want him to run me out. I don't entertain the idea of leaving. I understand the idea of us staying here and fighting this through the electoral process. Fleeing would only get him a win, because these people who are leaving are registered voters. We need those people to stay and vote and keep the fight going. We can't, Dr. King just say, I'm going to go and leave. I can't take this no more, and flee. Then where would we be if all of those fighters would have ran?
That's true.
So I would prefer us to stand here, and I know it's a daunting task, and I wake up some days and we feeling overwhelmed. I heard Dave Chappelle saying that, is you feeling like, man, every day is something. But that's what they want you to feel. But we have to stand up and push back and be fighters, and not, we can't lay down. We have to fight. So I wouldn't entertain the idea of leaving and giving them a win. Because, if you leave, then I did it. I got them out of here.
Yeah.
And so then to go back to Africa, slogan works. So I'm not entertaining the idea of fleeing. I'm entertaining the idea of, we need to get more people interested in voting, get us off these phones, get us out of feeling, because they're making us feel like we won't be able to be successful, and that's not true. These gentlemen and women are coming up for election right now, and they know, that they want to stay in office. That's why 17 of them voted to extended subsidies, you know, and they broke the party line. I'm sure those 17 probably are up for re-election,
Of course.
and these things are on their hearts and minds. They can only back this stuff for so long, and then, hey man, I'm up for re-election, and you don't want to lose. You know, they want to stay in there. So I'm not interested in trying to leave. I'm interested in staying here and let's see what we can do, and hoping that this court turn this around and these politicians
In due time.
turn this around. Yeah, and it's happening with the stroke of one pen. That means that when somebody else gets another pen, they can just
stroke it out
do
too.
it right.
Yeah, amazing.
So,
Well, folks, you have heard us here talking this afternoon with Attorney Kelvin Daniels. He's a local attorney here in the Daytona Beach area. Kelvin, how do people get in contact with you for legal counsel, advice, and anything else that they might need, particularly as it relates to things that we've talked about here on the show?
840 Harrington Street is the office, and my phone number is 386-405-2928. And so, you know.
Say it again for us.
386-405-2928.
Okay, all right. Well, certainly, folks, you've heard the dialogue and the exchange that we've had here. Hopefully something that we've shared here today will stir you up and help you to better understand the importance, one, certainly of if you're not registered to vote, register. If you've been previously registered, check your registration. Make sure that you participate. We got primaries that will start coming up here pretty soon. I mean, you've got Florida primaries if you're here in Florida, but if you're looking at this from another state, check your primary time so you can be a participant there. And of course, the November's elections are right around the corner. You'll have an opportunity to be able to literally choose things like your congressman, your state reps, all of those individuals. And those are the people that can make a difference. And so, again, thank you to Attorney Kelvin Daniels here this afternoon for sharing with us insight, information. And I hope and pray that all of you will have a great and outstanding day. And of course, don't forget to celebrate or should I say, commemorate the life and the sacrifices of Dr. Martin Luther King throughout the week ahead, and particularly ending on his day next Monday as a national holiday. God bless and keep you one and all.